Teofimo Lopez, a controversial name in the sport of boxing, but has definitely had a movie of a career. It's still only 26, he's seen the ups and downs of the sport and has basically had a full career already. What's next for him though? After him announcing his retirement after his last fight, is this really the end of his boxing career? I personally don't think so, but even if he does, we can't help but admire his story. To one of the hottest prospects to falling off, to now that guy once again. Today we're going to talk about the rise and downfall and rise again of Teofimo Lopez. Teo, coming up as a prospect, was arguably one of the most talented boxers out there, on the top 3 list of most boxing analysts at the start of his career, and rightfully so. He was smashing through his opponents, beating them in a fashion where he was knocking out everybody. His power was unmatched and still is. He was beating people like Richard Comey, who was a champion, and he whooped him in 2 rounds. This was meant to be his toughest test yet, a world title fight, and that's how easy he smashed through it. This is where Teo picked up a big name. He started calling out Loma after that. Not many people thought he could win, and if he did win, it would be a puncher's chance. He had the skills, but the IQ of Loma is just unmatched. He's too smart in there. He'll break you down little by little. The build-up was massive. A lot of smack talk from Teo, and you could see the hard work and motivation that he had for the fight. It was the biggest fight of his life, and he was training accordingly. This was also a smart fight, I believe, from Teo, as Loma took a lot of time off due to a shoulder injury, so it was his first fight back. But regardless of that, it was a step up again for Teo. At this point, Lomachenko was the pound for pound #1 in the world, so it was going to be a tough challenge. Teo made light work of Loma in the first half, winning with ease, getting rid of his angles, making him miss, and clearly showing off his power. As it looked, Loma was almost scared to get inside of Teo. But then things took a turn. Loma all of a sudden picked up the pace near the second half of the fight. He started figuring Teo out and was making him look kind of stupid. It was starting to look more like an even matchup until the 12th round, which if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you go watch it. That was an insane final round from Teofimo Lopez, where he stole the show with his tremendous heart. This resulted in a unanimous decision win for Teofimo Lopez, and he was now unified lightweight champion. He technically should have been undisputed, but Lomachenko before vacated his belt to Devin Haney to avoid fighting him. But it's fair to say Teo was an all-time high, even having discussions on the pound for pound list. But it's clear that all this got to Teo's head. His ego got the better of him, and he thought he was unstoppable. His fight after this against George Kambosos Jr. showed this. So George Kambosos, a worthy contender who was on the come up, everyone thought Teo would wipe the floor with him. This was a back and forth verbal assault from both teams. It was clear Teo was heated and wanted to hurt Kambosos badly. He didn't want to box him. He wanted to go in there and throw bombs, and that's exactly what he did. I don't know how Teo went from boxing so well against Lomachenko to all of a sudden changing up against Kambosos and fighting like that. If you haven't seen the fight, Teo came out wild, swinging at Kambosos, and obviously paid the price for it.
No instinct is to get into a firefight with his opponent.
I mean, there was no real game plan, and maybe his camp didn't go how he wanted, as I feel Teofimo Lopez kind of underestimated how George Kambosos would be. And still to this day, I really do think that a normal Teo would have wiped the floor with George Kambosos, but everything was wrong. He came out in the first round crazy and got hit with a perfectly timed overhand right, which dropped him. The whole fight switched from there and became a war, and was arguably the fight of the year. Back and forth action from start to finish. I mean, just look at their faces. Everything was on the line, and it showed how much they disliked each other and how badly they wanted it. Kambosos gave him his first loss in the pro game and took his titles. Later on, the doctor had announced that Teo had a heart or chest problem where he could have died in the ring, so he had a lot against him with family issues on top of that. Next, he had a fight against Pedro Campa, and it was clear Teo was starting to take a decline in his career. He definitely wasn't the same in this fight. Maybe the loss had got to him, but he got dropped again and put up a poor performance where some could say Pedro got robbed. It wasn't a very convincing win for Teo. After this fight, he shortly made an announcement that he would be moving up in weight, and his next fight was against a tough contender in Sandor Martin, where he showed a better performance but still wasn't the old Teo. He again didn't box too well and was getting caught too many times. And yes, Teo did win by stoppage, but for the most part, it seemed like a long beatdown that he was taking. And honestly, I think it was a terrible performance from Teo. At this point, to me, this is when Teo was at rock bottom, and it seemed like he was on his way out. But not long after, a huge fight between him and Josh Taylor was announced. They were both at a bad place in their careers, at that point both once being great champions and their last fights both being bad performances. So this was an opportunity for either of them to redeem themselves. I genuinely thought this would be too much for Teo, especially after his performances over the last 2 years. But to my surprise, when this fight happened, Teo came out as the old Teofimo Lopez, boxed well with tactical aggression, and it's fair to say he put out a clinic on Josh Taylor and was overall a one-sided beatdown for 12 rounds. This performance, in my opinion, put Teo back in the race to where he needed to be and back to fight for the top position again. And even to this day, I still truly believe that a Teo with a clear head, good game plan, and fighting his usual self is a beast, and genuinely I see him beating a lot of top contenders. I think he's been through a lot of problems over the years with his wife and dad, and that may be a reason for him fighting the way he did before. But I'm hoping Teo will continue his career, get back to normal, as he is one of boxing's most exciting fighters, and I think he has so much more left in his career as he's still so young. But what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure you smash that subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you don't miss an upload from us. That'll be all from us. We'll catch you in the next one.